Under the scope. Hey, Scopeaholics. Jared and Shane here for...
Scopeaholics?
I know. You like it? For another Scope movie review. This time around, we take a look at the latest Steven Spielberg joint.
Right.
Called Bridge of Spies. It is a historical drama. I was just telling Jared, that's the only movies we choose to see nowadays.
It's almost the only movies that Spielberg chooses to make.
Yeah, it's interesting. This takes place in the year of our Lord, 1957.
Correct.
And it details what, Jared?
So, it is, we're in the Cold War. U.S. versus USSR. Our hero, protagonist, if you will, is Tom Hanks playing James Donovan, and he is a insurance lawyer.
He is pretty good at his job.
He's very good at negotiating and slinging the words. And he is tasked by the U.S. government to represent a suspected Russian spy that they've recently captured.
Red Scare.
Red Scare. We're deep in the heart of the Red Scare. We get hints of that throughout the entire film. The idea is that they want to show that at least that Soviet spies are still going to get due process, and that obviously the American way is the best way, and all that good stuff.
But they're not really that interested, are they, Jared?
No.
The powers that be?
No. If you know your history, this is based on real events. He doesn't win the case. Shocker, I know. The spy in question is Rudolf Abel. He is convicted of espionage, but he manages to not get the death penalty. He gets a 30-year sentence instead.
Why?
Because James Donovan has a hunch.
He's a smart fella.
He has a hunch he might be needed sometime in the future. You never know. You never know. Meanwhile, at the same time, we've got...
Meanwhile, back at the Batcave.
Yes, the U.S. has started their U-2 spy program. And
if you know your history...
one of those guys was shot down. Francis Gary Powers was shot down over the Soviet Union and becomes captured there. So you can probably see where this path is taking us. We've got captured American on the Russian side. You've got a captured, possibly Russian on the American side.
What do you do?
And so our tale commences, or is in progress. You know, it's history, so you kind of know how things are going to happen, but it's the devil's in the details, as they say.
You've also got a newly formed East German country that also happens to have an American in their grasp. And
he's a graduate student from Yale who happened to cross the border trying to rescue his German girlfriend and her father as the Berlin Wall is being constructed, like literally as it's happening. And he gets caught over there and imprisoned. And he ends up becoming a factor in this negotiation as well.
So Tom Hanks has got to negotiate for these prisoners. And
who else do we have in this film?
As actors?
Yeah. Alan Alda. Amy Ryan. Jesse Plemons. Some people you'll recognize but probably don't know by name. Yeah. Including, I don't know them by name, so...
If Jared doesn't know, it's not important, because he does know most actors and what they do and what they are. Usually it's someone from Deadwood or Homeland or something like that.
Very good cast involved there, but no. No, there are faces you will recognize from other movies, but I can't place the names.
Yes,
sorry.
You can't place it.
Sorry.
So there you go, Jared. Thank you for that terrific summary.
Directed by Steven Spielberg.
Stevie Spielberg.
Co-written by the Coen brothers.
Yeah. It's interesting, because this is definitely not a typical Coen brothers type of film.
Right.
It's played pretty straight. There's nothing goofy about it. Some little hints of humor there.
Yes.
And nothing terribly dark. I mean, it's a pretty much straight-ahead historical drama.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've teased Jared a bit about how I think this is one of the worst names for a film, because it's this nondescript name that
Bridge of Spies.
That doesn't really tell you anything, and it doesn't really give you a feeling one way or another.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt with this movie.
Really?
I mean, so don't get me wrong. Okay. I like the movie.
Yeah.
But it didn't... I mean, I didn't feel any sort of typical Spielbergian tension. I mean, it was presented very matter-of-factly and very aptly and done very well and whatever, but it was a pretty straight-ahead film for me.
I think for Spielberg, it definitely is not dripping with nostalgia and melodrama like his stuff sometimes is. For me, this is a film of subtlety and nuance. Contrast
Kind of like our show.
contrasted with sort of cartoonish displays of nationalism.
Yep, there you go. I was going to mention that.
And I think that is intentional, because I think what you've got is you're in the Red Scare, you've got these cartoonish displays of rah-rah Americanism, and God, we see the Pledge of Allegiance with the newly inserted line in 1957 of
Is that the year
One
it was
Nation Under
inserted?
God, I believe it is, or at least very close to that. You don't see a lot of the Soviet side, but the bits you do see are portrayed as very ominous and very kind of stereotypical of what you see. I mean, the main scene is sort of the courtroom scene where Gary Powers is found guilty and sentenced. And the music comes up and it's ominous and everything feels very...
And everyone's cheering.
Very totalitarian and very, very,
You said it.
Soviet Union. And I think that whole portrayal sort of cartoonish and what's the word I want? I don't know. Overblown, but one-dimensional and simplistic is sort of meant to contrast the human characters, at least the ones that we get to know well, because for the most part they're subtle, they're complex, they're nuanced, they're capable of kind of working in the margins and talking across borders without any sort of super deep nationalism in play. And I really do feel like that was the intent of the film.
Pragmatic.
Yes,
Jared.
Pragmatic. The idea that nations are kind of monolithic and stupid, but humans can be nuanced and subtle,
change, yes.
and that's where the real change happens.
And I also think that Spielberg was trying to make a point and try to draw parallels to what our country is today.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of our country viewing things in black and white, right or wrong, binary, ones or zeros, and how the world isn't necessarily, not even necessarily, the world is not like that. If you take that sort of approach, your gains will be limited and your insight into humanity will be nil.
Yes, I think the idea is you need to look at the forest for the trees, and in this case, the people. And the people are, worth considering one-on-one. Not everyone can be painted with the same brush.
So what we are seeing here is you're watching a master and a master actor. I mean,
Yes,
Tom Hanks is very, very good. I mean, it's still Tom Hanks, but he has a presence on the screen. Although as he gets older, he's starting to look a lot like LBJ, which is sort of creeping me out. So maybe he'll.
Who is playing LBJ in the movie that's coming out?
It's
not him, I don't think.
I don't know.
But there is a biopic coming out.
But I mean, everything in this film is very capable.
Yeah.
It's very sturdy.
It's not a bombastic blow you out of your seats kind of movie.
It is the opposite of that.
Yeah. It's very calm in its proceedings and very diplomatic.
But enjoyable.
I think so. And I was sort of, I think, where you are through the first half, where I'm like, I'm enjoying these subtle moments and these little bits, but I'm not sure it's adding up to a whole. But I think once we get to the European part of it, I think I've started to feel a little bit more.
Yeah, there's a little more tension there too.
A little more tension, just because you're in a dangerous place. But I felt like I started to see kind of what the pieces were adding up to.
Sure.
And there was a lot of interesting, and I don't really understand everything that the choices yet that was going on, but there's a lot of things with the way the film was edited. Like it will cut from one scene to another, and the cuts will be reactions to the shots that came from before, but it's in a completely different place. That stuff was really interesting. There's a lot of parallel actions or repeated actions, both with the same characters and with different characters. There's this thing where I know there's a meaning behind this, but I'm not sure what it is.
Tell me, and then I will explain it to you.
It's a character having a sniffly nose and having to wipe their nose. And I'm trying to figure out what that signifies, because there's a few different characters that happens to at different times in the film. And I know it means something, and I'm not 100% sure what it means yet, but it feels intentional.
It is they have colds.
Yes.
And they're trying to avoid a war. Done. Next. What else?
I think it's a little more involved than that.
I think you're wrong. I think you're reading into it too much.
I think it maybe signifies insecurity or something. I'm not sure. There's something going on there, though. Somebody will write about it, and I'll read it.
Jared.
Anyway.
Sometimes a drippy nose is just a drippy nose.
It was weird, though, how different characters had it at key moments in the story, I think there's something there.
I just thought it was interesting that you actually saw a little bit of moisture underneath Tom Hanks' nose from time to time.
Well, makeup artist getting the job done.
I know.
Good job.
If you want to draw comparisons between this film and the last film that we reviewed, The Walk, which also had its own take on America and how we should love America. It's almost like a master and his students. I think Zemeckis for The Walk was way over the top.
Yeah.
Where in this one, Spielberg, and obviously it's different subject matter, but he handles it with a bit more of a subtle touch. And maybe that's the whole movie. Maybe it's the point of it. But still, even when Spielberg ramped up some of the parallels at the end of people in East Germany trying to escape,
right,
climbing over a wall and being shot to death, and then showing kids in Brooklyn just hopping over fences freely. I wasn't like, oh boy, that's a little too on the nose, and it was pretty much on the nose, but it worked better for me than a lot of what Zemeckis did.
Yeah, for me that moment was more about sort of reminding our main character that while he did just have a pretty significant victory, that things in the world are still kind of dire.
Sure.
So,
but overall, I think it was a movie that we have a lot to think about, but we liked it.
Maybe. But maybe we'll let the score decide.
The Scope score is 3 stars.
3 stars.
Boy, we're kind of agreeing a lot lately about scores. We're in the ballpark.
Should have put a ring on it. Man, what a power couple we would be.
Indeed.
We'd always get along.
Yeah. We would.
I could whip up some graphics, Jared could check my code. I mean, it would be a match made in heaven.
Well, it's too bad that same-sex marriage is not legal in this country.
I wouldn't lose my Fitbit.
Oh, wait, it is.
Oh, it is.
Too bad you're already married.
So that's an inside joke, by the way.
Yeah.
So, Jared, we've completed this review, so I guess that leaves us to tell our listeners and or viewers how they can interact with us.
What you need to do is get a small square of paper, and then get a very fine point writing instrument, write your little message down, then fold it up a little tiny bit, and then put it inside of a hollowed out nickel. Make sure that nickel is magnetic, stick it to the bottom of a park bench. We'll come by at the appointed time and surreptitiously remove it and read your message.
Wow. And what if they don't want to go through all of that 1950s
You can
humbug?
like, comment, and subscribe down below.
Just that easy. So, terrific, Jared.
Yeah.
Another great review under our belt. Hopefully we'll have more coming soon. It is wintertime. It's award season.
And big films are coming ahead.
Big films are coming. Gem and the Holograms, number 1. We only hope we can see that. So until then, this is Jared, I am Shane, and this is The Scope. Bye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves once again at the end. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I know I have. Fear not, Scope faithful. The days shall pass as if they were but a moment, and Jared, Adam, and Shane will return with another thrilling episode. Until then, send your comments to comments@thescopeshow.com or leave a voicemail message by dialing
612-21-SCOPE. That's 612-217-2673.
Thanks for listening, faithful fans. This is Tony Partington saying arrivederci. Tune in next time to another terrific edition of The Scope.